There's a little bit of research I saw yesterday that I wanted to discuss, and it was in the running community, which I'm not a big runner personally, but I do work with people that run in clinic. And if you've ever been injured while you're running, you've probably heard some version of this from a coach, a therapist. You know, you're striking wrong with your foot. There's some sort of overpronating going on. Your cadence is off. You have some hip drop. The biomechanics that you're using to run are causing your injury, and likely something like that has come across your desk if you've had a running injury. And for years, people have been built entire businesses around convincing runners that if we can just fix this one tiny detail in your gait, you'll stop getting hurt. And there's a problem with that line of thinking. The big problem is the evidence surrounding this is not very convincing. And there's some new work that has been done recently that talks about this. So in the study, these researchers did a prospective work on 900 runners, followed them all for a year, and when they enrolled the 900 people into the study, they made sure none of them had any symptoms or history of Achilles tendinopathies when they started the study. They measured the biomechanics of their running, they measured their different characteristics of their running, and then they sent them on their way and just saw what happened over the course of the year. Over the course of the year of those 900 runners, 23 of them started to develop what would be clinically described as an Achilles tendinopathy. And what they found should make some people that work in this space a little uncomfortable. The strongest signal had nothing to do with a biomechanical flaw in their running. The strongest signal that where these people got the Achilles tendinopathy was their exposure. It was the loading, it was the volume. And I'm going to keep coming back to that as I go through things on my channel. And this is a big problem for the internet because the internet loves a good biomechanical villain in these situations. Everybody wants it to just be one thing. They want it to be a faulty movement. They want it to be some bad pattern they have, and that one thing that they can circle in a slow motion video of their running and blame it right there. And then real life isn't as simple as that. And what I'm not saying is biomechanics are irrelevant. I want to be clear on that. That's not what I'm saying. There is some importance to how a person runs for efficiency's sake, and the faster people run, the closer the more similar they become. But to that regard, they may matter some for high levels of performance, for more efficiency, for comfort. If there's some injury situation going on, we may need to make some alterations. If somebody has some really bizarre extreme movement strategies outside of what you would expect, then we may need to do some coaching. But that's a very different thing than saying that a biomechanical flaw that you find in a person is going to predict an injury. And that just doesn't bear out in these cases. That's, things get a little shaky when you start to say stuff like that. So let's take two runners. Let's run this thought experiment. Runner A has the most perfect biomechanics. He has the perfect gait. He has this perfect cadence, whatever that means. He has the most immaculate foot strike right out of the textbook, whichever one you subscribe to. And then over the next 3 weeks, he decides to double his mileage. Runner B has a little pronation. He's got some asymmetries, whatever that means. There's a little hip drop. Nothing looks perfect, so to speak, in runner B. But they take a nice, intelligent, graded progression over the next 6 months. Which one of those two runners is going to worry me is runner A every time, because the tissues of your body care far more about what they're being asked to tolerate than whether the movement that you're performing looks, quote, perfect. So this is a problem, the rehab industry. This is where I think our professions, I'm in chiropractic, but I work with physical therapists, and this is where things start to get into trouble. It's easy to sell a biomechanical flaw to someone. It's easy to convince a runner that they need fixing. It's easy to create, and that in turn is easy to create dependency on you to keep them in your clinic. And if the problem is this invisible movement fault, then the patient is going to need you forever, right? And if the problem is capacity, the solution is education and progression and improved training and self-management. And unfortunately, you have a difficult time monetizing independency. So if you go back and watch the other videos on my channel, because I cover this with a lot of other things, we see similar problems in things like a deadlift and a squat and CrossFit and low back pain and osteoarthritis, rotator cuff tears, disc herniations. People are always looking for something to blame it on, some sort of dangerous movement. But the evidence keeps pointing more towards poor preparation and poor progression. So your Achilles tendon does not really care how pretty your gait looks. It cares whether you're prepared for the load you're asking it to tolerate. And that doesn't mean biomechanics will never matter. It means biomechanics are often blamed for things that are really just a problem in your training and your progression. So most running injuries are load management problems disguised as a movement problem. And that's why so many runners will spend years and dollars chasing gait corrections, and they just ignore what really matters. What really matters is how much you're doing and how quickly are you trying to progress from how much you're doing now to how much you want to do in the future. And am I prepared to increase those demands? So stop and think for a minute, because the goal isn't perfect movements. The goal is resilient movements. The goal isn't completely eliminating every asymmetry in somebody's body. The goal is make sure you can build capacities through normal variations, and then these things don't matter as much because human beings will adapt, and they're far more adaptable than anyone on the internet is going to lead you to believe. So capacity over biomechanics every time. And those are the things that we need to be looking at.